Building great content and sharing that with your community, that's great brand building and trust building. But you're not doing it to convert a lead and to try to do a landing page form and ninja them and then, follow up. And it's not that hamster wheel type of approach. You're investing in content and thought leadership to really make sure that you have a chance to make your case, that you can be put on the consideration list, that you're bringing something to the table that maybe they hadn't thought about.
Oh yes, this is the Hardcore Marketing Show. I'm Casey Cheshire, your host for this epic journey. Today's show is sponsored by Ringmaster, on a mission to launch B2B podcasts that create relationships, generate revenue, and drive growth. Ringmasterlive.com. Bam. Okay, all I had to do is hit a button, and now this thing is about to go. I'm excited. I can't wait to reintroduce my guest today. He is a badass from the past. Episode 150, if you want his backstory and all the adventures and those kind of things, go back to episode 150 back in 2020.
Wow.
Around September timeframe. We know what was going on around then. And it was a pleasant experience to get out of the doldrums of 2020 to have a chat with my guest. And he's back. He's back. He's an absolute wizard. I can't wait to introduce him to all of you, or reintroduce him. Marketing leader, thought leader, consultant to the stars, marketing and sales mentor. He understands the full revenue picture. He's seasoned CMO from all across the way. He's been a prolific speaker, a moderator. He's the guy you bring in to make that event really shine. He's a writer. He's a commentator. What does he not know? I haven't found it yet. Chief Market Officer at Vaughan Go-to-Market Advisory, Scott Vaughan. Welcome back, sir.
Casey, wow, that's a powerful introduction. I think that's a list of things I do on a monthly basis, but curious person who loves to work on go-to-market strategies with business-to-business companies is really what my work passion is all about.
You know what? You're the kind of guy that, we have just catch-up calls or whatnot, and I feel like, man, I should have recorded that, Like every single one of our calls, if we get into strategy or just commentary on some of the things that are going on, it's like, I wish I had recorded that. Well, guess what? Today, I don't feel that way, because we get to share this kind of, thought and information with other people. So I'm going to shut up and pass you this thing. You haven't had it for a while, so it missed you. Okay, here you go. Go ahead and grab Thor's hammer. You got it?
I have it, fully have it, yes.
Okay. Scott, take from me Thor's hammer and smash some kind of marketing myth, a bogus strategy, misconception. Set the record straight once and for all.
Well, there are a lot of myths going on, but let's take one that's very big, and I think a playbook that many business-to-business organizations are trying to correct, and that is the move from the mindset of marketing's role is there to enable sales. Yes, and sales the department. I think that myth, that energy, the resources of putting so much into that have missed a major component. That is to focus on your buyer, or in the B2B world, your buying group enablement. If you put your energy into the buying group, into your buyers, that is going to yield the results that produce when you get to your sales enablement phase. It may sound so obvious, but marketing has spent so much time over the last 8 to 10 years, including myself, feeding sales, leads, content, when really, if we flip the script, if we would have put that energy into directing that to our total available market, our service addressable market, or even our target accounts if you use an account-based marketing, an ABM play. And we're seeing that playbook evolve. Companies are starting to realize, let's talk about some of the facts behind that. And the reason is, and the logic behind it, when you walk through it, where the light bulb went off for me a few years back, was so many companies have a large buying group, a minimum of 10, many 12 to 15. they start doing their homework and research in a self-serve model. They can get information about the category, the product, the solutions. And we in marketing need to be there to be able to serve and deliver that. That they may not turn into a lead or an opportunity, but we have to be there. And that focus on buyer and buying group enablement starts a whole new chain of thinking. It's not a radical overhaul, but it's a culture reset, a metrics reset, and how you activate and engage in market to ultimately drive pipeline and revenue. And there's a key word, Casey, that in my experience is making a well-deserved comeback, and that is you have to be able to develop some level of brand awareness and relationship early in that process before your buyer and buying group have raised their hands to talk to sales. I know that's a marketing 101 in consumer, but in B2B, we kind of took it for granted that we're going to swoop in when they go to build their vendor lists, and we're going to all of a sudden be on the radar.
Right.
We're going to go to the mid to bottom of the funnel, and we know that does not work.
Yeah, it's too late, right? We're almost too late. It's just you're behind the curve. There's other brands they're probably aware of, and you're not one of them.
That's right. And that myth needs to be busted and blown up. And we can talk about what you can do and all of those things as we go through, but
Yeah.
that recentering of a plan and looking at actually all the data that we've been doing research, we've been saying it, analyst firms have been pointing it, it's self-serve through 2/3 or more of the buying journey. They want to self-serve. That's the quote unquote the dark funnel. All of those things, those facts are true. 40 to 60% of deals end in a no decision. They may not even get to the seller stage because they decided that the company, the buyers, the groups decided we're not going to go forward with this initiative. That's about half the time.
Wow.
So we're really in a different scenario. And all that's to say we put a lot of money, time, energy into trying to get to the bottom of the funnel quickly, to try to do all those components and try to accelerate that process, which we really can't affect if we're being honest.
You're right. So right. The lip service we give to the self-service model, almost like it's the emperor's new clothes, or almost like if we pretend it's not there, it'll go away. I feel like we acknowledge that, but then we just cool. Okay, there's that, but let's just focus on the known it's easier, right? To focus on their bodies, we have contact details. It's a known entity, and it feels safer and more status quo to focus there. But man, to think that we could lose half of the deals in the self-serve research mode in the buying committee, and they're not even in the room.
We don't even show up because of that. So let's break that down a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's talk about why, maybe, because I've had to really think about this as I work on go-to-market strategies. And rightly so, by the way, this is not wrong, it's just what it is.
Yeah.
We're so focused on feeding sales leads because that's what we're feeding the crying people who need the help, who need the support. They need to hit their quota. They need a certain number of conversations. They need a pipeline. Good intentions. But if we were to shift some of that energy over into enabling the buyer and doing identity and discovery and building our brand and trust and preference, it just doesn't mean doing a brand campaign. I'm talking about really focusing on getting your positioning right, having a clear, relevant message, inviting people in to see what you have to offer.
Have a podcast.
Well, something that keeps you visible in your space. That's right. And it could be, a podcast could be an ingredient in that, or whatever flavor of podcast that makes sense for your market segment and your segment of buyers and the accounts that you're going after.
The visible in your space, even if a deal isn't active, I think so. I mean, so much to your point of our mechanics are built around fit or fold. Like if it is not progressing through the pipe or the funnel, we are killing it. We're sending it to a graveyard. Maybe we'll hit it with some rude email later, but we are just completely not paying attention to it. But I spoke to someone yesterday. They're typically their customers are locked into 1 to 3 year deals, and they, just because they meet someone who's a perfect fit, they may be locked in a deal for the next 2 years.
That's right. And that's even another scenario to reason of buying group enablement, where you continue to let marketing do the work. Marketing needs to be, if the data tells us the average sales cycle, depending on what part of the world, it's somewhere between 10 and 12 months, right?
Yeah.
Give or take. And if that's the case, then that means marketing and your go-to-market strategy has to have something that you're that far out in advance. Now, if it's a 1 to 3 year deal, there's data today about licensees coming up, when their contract's ending. So we bring data into the play to time that as well. But you can't wait for the last minute to say, their contract's ending, we're going to do it 3 months before. That's also a losing strategy. You need to be getting on their top of mind that you have something of value, that you can deliver something that 12 months before starting, and that's where marketing comes in. It's a lot easier to enable sales if marketing's done the job to do the brand awareness, to bring and engage those people, even though they may not turn into an opportunity immediately. That machine has to start. And if we don't start the machine, we're going to be left behind, and you can never catch up. You're chasing constantly.
Oh yeah, I mean, the chasing and losing game. What do you say to that company then, that I probably should introduce you to as well after this? What do you say to them when they were fixated on the 4 SQLs they need this month? Or no, at least one. I need this many from this now. Yeah, I mean, that's okay, but you need to consider the other side, or
No, you need that, but if you're ever going to get there, you need to invest in that 9 months before. You'll never catch up, right? You at some point
they're chasing.
And I'm not naive. You can't walk into a boardroom and say, well, give us 9 months. I understand that. So there might be some tactics you have to deploy to put more of that, I would call it Hail Mary, if I can say that, to try to grab them at the right moment. But if that's your strategy, Casey, think about it. Everything you're doing, or a big portion of what you're doing and investing in, is trying to do Hail Marys every day. Let's try to pull them in with an intent signal, right? That should be part of your playbook. That's not wrong or bad. But if that's your strategy, you never get ahead of that curve to be able to pull people into your orbit and have a chance to get a seat at the table and be considered. It's very logical when you think about it. But all of our thinking, especially over the last 15 years, maybe you were a culprit of this in all the work you've done. I was a culprit of it by selling MarTech solutions and services, that we had to have content marketing, that we had to produce MQLs and turn them into SQLs. It's not necessarily those go away, but if that's the crux of your strategy, we never get to the chance where we're actually bringing accounts and buying groups into a conversation and into the pipeline where we have a chance to be on that consideration list. And that's the game today.
I'm in. How do you make that change? How do you speaking to the marketer, listening, the marketing leader, and their CEOs looking at them saying, like, I want all marketing spend to equate to SQL outcomes
this quarter.
Yeah, this quarter.
So that's real. That's real.
And brand spend, I want that to go elsewhere. I'll take the brand spend. You just deliver transactionally.
You just go deliver demand.
Yeah. How do we convert?
Well, it's not easy. Nothing worth usually doing or making a big transformational change is easy. But I think you have to do it through education. So you actually take your deals, your sequence, you use the best data that you can. Some systems have and teams have more data and systems, and you break down the last 5, 10 deals. When did we first meet them? What was that process like? So we try to speak in our own language. The second thing is there is a huge amount of information of this change. This is nothing new. I'm not a rocket scientist here that's saying that the buying process is this long, there's this many people involved, and they live in that dark funnel, that self-service mode. That's been discussed, documented, researched. So there's that. Let's break down our deals, and to make the case, to have the courage is probably the biggest word, to make that shift in thinking. And maybe you have to put it in an innovation lab and run a parallel effort. Take a portion of the budget and effort to do that. But that's the case I'm making every day, because to try to be a hero and we need 10 more deals next quarter, of course we're going to try to alter things and optimize. But if that's how you operate as a team, you'll never win. You can never deliver on that objective consistently. So that's why the reset, whatever you want, an evolved playbook, but it does take courage, and it's going to take some education, and probably a change not just in process but culture, and how you do the campaign thinking will change as well, because you're going to want to think about more, how do I drive brand and relevancy? How do I be more creative across my total available market or service addressable market? Or if you have more of an account-based play, how do I do that across those target accounts? How do I begin to invest now to move the needle? And you still may need tactics to get that extra SQL or two. That doesn't go away. There's times where you go, okay, we've got to then get to our target accounts and we've got to do something different. That's good. That's innovation. That's adapting. That's being agile. But if that's your whole strategy, Casey, we're hosed.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't work. There's no way it fits the laws of physics
Yeah.
and how things work. So you can't, you're already set up to fail if we try that effort. And I'm speaking from someone who has the scars and now finding some success. And it's not easy, again, acknowledging that in our therapy moment here.
I felt that though, and you could see why the CMO is the most quickly replaced. But it's what a catch-22, because quickly replaced for not focusing on the now, or the numbers now aren't working, but the numbers later are going to work in 6 to 8 months. You're right. I mean, it's a nasty cycle.
It is, and there's things you can do.
Yeah.
As the marketing leader in that seat, like there's quick wins and signals and things that you can make happen, that you can
Right.
show that there is value and contribution to that. But if you don't change the cycle, you're not going to win. And one of the things is marketing, Casey, to underline your point, marketing has so many different definitions from a board or an executive level. So even before you're interviewing or step into a role, it's really good to understand what they believe is, what does good marketing, great marketing look like? What is your expectation of the role? And even if it is, we expect pipeline, then working together to build, how do we do a sustainable model? And being realistic, what are the tactics or quick wins or even strategies we can put in place as an overlay to help get that extra 10, 20% while we're building this evolved model, which requires brand investment. And again, I'm not talking just, a lot of people in the advertising world think that means, all right, let's advertise more. That's not what I'm saying. Building brand for discoverability. Is your company and your solution being discovered in the right places? With AI and AI agents, that's even more relevant and prevalent today, that you need to have a strategy. That's brand, right? Still building great content and sharing that with your community. That's great brand building and trust building. But you're not doing it to convert a lead and to try to do a landing page form and ninja them and then follow up. And it's not that hamster wheel type of approach. You're investing in content and thought leadership to really make sure that you have a chance to make your case, that you can be put on the consideration list, that you're bringing something to the table that maybe they hadn't thought about. Again, this takes a a lot of thought and connectedness and process, because it will take, maybe I need different talent on the team, different roles. Maybe I need a different system, excuse me. And I'm not saying buy more tech. That's not the message here. But maybe I don't need all this tech and I need a few cool tools that will help me add that layer of difference. And certainly you need first-party data, and you need discovery tools and things like that that are capturing what's happening in your total available market, what's happening across your accounts, et cetera. And everybody's in, you can almost feel, Casey and I, we've been through a few of these, and you can feel everybody trying to transition and take pieces of this model, because the laws of buying and selling physics are what they are. They're there.
This is such a timely conversation, right? You even mentioned this. I used to be fully in the bottom of the funnel conversation doing the marketing automation, and now I'm square on the other side, and it feels good but also unfamiliar when I have conversations with people to explain it. So in maybe errantly, I still try to explain a podcast as a bottom of the funnel thing, but that's not really its role. I mean, it's great at getting people noticed, and it's great at creating connections and conversations. But, to think of a podcast as being the thing that will deliver your ready-made, ready-to-buy, in-market now, customers, it's like a misuse of it. It's a misappropriation.
It's an ingredient.
It's ingredient.
That's a part of it. And it might not be the podcast, but it might be a 2-minute clip of that podcast where you break down that someone's defined the crux of the issue like that you hadn't heard before. Like, this brand, this company, they get it. They understand what I'm feeling. They understand what we mean. And when I talk to the other companies, I'm getting a lot of cool technology, or I'm getting an interesting solution, but I'm not getting that their people get it. And that might be the difference. And just pure visibility is going to give somebody on the buying group, that 10, 12, whatever the number is, 8, 13 number of people, the professionals that are on that group, that may give them the confidence to at least let's investigate them. Let's see what they have to say. Then it's your time to shine. So to me, like, a podcast is a great brand ingredient that you have to be able to do that. Just like a webinar can be much more of a how-to instructional, where they might learn something and go, wow, we're not approaching it that way. That's why you always want to have content and market the problem, the process, etc., and put your brand behind that, not just your solution. You make your solution information available, but that's the whole thinking behind that in that early stage, is that you're going to be answering their questions, or maybe you're going to be giving them the questions to answer. Both of those things are what marketing can do in that self-serve dark funnel time frame while you're doing education. So they may be thinking about what the project for 2026, right? They're starting to sketch it, and the fact they come across this, they'll go, we haven't done business with this company. What's this company all about? And all of a sudden now you don't even know it. You may be added to a list to at least consider, or to do some research on, and that's where you have to shine and be ready. Your brand and your content and your website, your experience has to be ready.
They may discover it and be chatting about it to plan for 2026, but because it's that self-service model, you may not know about it, and then you may shut down the thing.
That's right.
That brought you the visibility, because we're hyper-focused on the ROI of the moment.
ROI of the moment, and did that email that marketing send out from its automation, or did that event, that binary 1 point, do anything? And the reality is, the average deal, when you look at the research from different angles, but there's somewhere around 4,500 interactions that take place across the 4 or 5 vendors at that point. Think about that. That's touch points.
4,500 touch points?
Yeah, well, you have the buying group.
Well, I guess buying committee.
Right? You got a group, you got a committee, you've got all the touch points, the Zoom calls, the reviewing this piece of content, that webinar, they went to an event, they met with them. and then you've got 4 or 5 vendors are on the consideration list, you go quickly. That's why you have to be more in an always on mindset. You have to be available to, and you have to have your brand stand for something and be relevant in conversations. And there are exceptions. You see, if there's a completely disruptive movement and you're the only game in town for a period of time, usually that doesn't last very long these days.
No, it doesn't.
But say you are, that's a different scenario, right, than what we're talking about. There's always disruptors and there's always side cases that don't follow this formula.
Sure.
A startup has to do something different than a mid-market or an enterprise provider, go-to-market company like that, how they go to market, excuse me. So there are exceptions. This is not a steadfast rule, but this is a majority of what we do for, mid-market and enterprise companies. Startup, there's probably a few rules you can break here and do some things differently, and that's what helps you stand out.
What's the first step?
Well, the first step is, I think, in go-to-market is aligning the stakeholders within your team. And typically we go to marketing and sales, maybe the executive team, the CEO, CFO. That's important. But getting them that there needs to be a different motion that we all bank on. And then we have to be willing, to say we're the leader or part of that team, to be sharing the good and bad of things we learn along that journey so that there's trust that's being built. But that first step is acknowledging that there has to be a better way and bringing the right people in to be part of that effort to build the better way. And it's not just in the marketing department. It's not just in marketing sales alignment. It also has to be, maybe there's some different things we can do with our product and how we offer it. Maybe we can offer a tease, a special capability or a tool that's part of that gives our total available market a little bit of tease and access to our brand that they wouldn't have otherwise, right? So, and the more established you get, the more you want to throw that net out there, and that's where podcasting and things where you have a consistent presence in the market, excuse me, and it's around the key themes that are going to matter to that to your prospect base.
Line of stakeholders, hey, it has to be a better way. And we need to, I wrote this down, a different motion we can bank on. This is a particular investment we're making in that buying community out there, not in contact with us long before they ever get to us.
Yeah, and in that alignment, there's data, which I provided to you, right? That's very available, but there's also stories. Let me give you an example, would be how I would lead. Let's look at our last 5 or 6, 10, 20 new customer wins. Closed one, if we want to use the revenue language, right? Let's look at those, and let's look at that, the number of touch points. That may have to be a manual effort in the beginning. This is not a cry to run out for more technology. Do not do that. There'll be a time for that when you scale it.
Yeah.
Well, you know what I
Level
mean.
down.
That's not my message. My message is let's look at this and let's tell some of the stories of how we won these customers and how we lost some of the customers that we weren't in the game. We weren't even on the consideration list. And if we want to be to get on that list and be relevant in those conversations, we have to do some things differently.
You know what? I definitely have an anecdote to that. Reconnected with a great contact from many moons ago, and sure enough, they are launching a podcast, and they started last month. And I wasn't even in consideration or anything because we hadn't caught up in a while, and also I hadn't done as much on the other things. So, and there's nothing you can really do, right? You're okay. Well, you missed that boat. Maybe we'll get you on the next one. And it's those kind of great point. It's the data and the stories. The data to show, and then the stories to say, hey, we can't let this keep happening, and we want. And look at this other thing. This worked. They heard about us on that panel discussion. And that can help justify to that CEO looking for the monthly numbers and
Yeah, and to all your business, yeah, to all the, look, I get it, and not every company is going to be open to that.
Right.
Some like the formula of the machine, and maybe you're in a market that does have that machine. That's fantastic, and that will happen. I'm talking about the bigger, broader movement that is very much being acknowledged, and why you see brand making that comeback as part of that formula. And again, brand doesn't equal ad impressions. Brand means brand building activity, being present and relevant in a market, and not trying to show up at the last minute with the greatest white paper because someone was doing research on a topic and you're going to go try to get in on the conversation. That sales enablement, sales feeding, that's a really rough road.
Yeah, it is the roughest road. Um, what are you seeing coming around the bend? Is there hope in sight? Are you seeing people come to the light here?
Yeah, I do. More than hope is in sight. I think the good news is the data and the technology is available to do it. The mindset is there. It's really the courage and the environment, the culture that you create and set, and environment in terms of you have to be connected to the executive team and to the stakeholders to make sure that you are in lockstep of how to move that forward. But the hopefulness is going to be fun is the innovation area. There is some points that allow you to do this work because of the agentic AI and Gen AI capabilities that will allow some more automation in the right areas in the back office, if you will, that you can use to scale that effort. And I'm not talking about next gen AI to write emails. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the ability to use those tools faster, quicker, so that you can put more effort into your discoverability, more effort into ideas and programs and things, not campaigns necessarily, but programs that can up-level your brand and your relevance. So this is all coming together at the right time. It usually takes 2 to 4 to 5 years to play out for a shift like this. And to me, it's not a radical shift on paper, but it is a radical shift in terms of mindset and talent.
Mindset and talent. It isn't that's I mean it's who not how, right?
I really believe that, Casey. It always is the case, but it's even more so than ever. Everybody has access to tools.
Yeah.
Tools are important. They play a role. I feel like I'm always caveating, but
We have to, otherwise the SaaS demons come and get you.
well, no, tools are everything because we need to automate and be efficient. And today, AI just it's delivering today, but has more promise. And we already have some great tools that we can use in the account-based world and in the engagement world. There's things that we can do. It's honestly having that courage and a chance to take a deep breath for 30, 60 days to begin to make your case, do the makeover work that's required. To me, that's the hardest part, that you have to commit to it. And there's a little bit of putting you and your team out there when you do it. And not every company is going to be willing to take that risk. So we'll stay on the same kind of MQL, sales enablement first mindset. Sales enablement is important. Should also say that's critical, but at the right stage. Because you can do all the sales enablement, but if you haven't done the buyer and the buying group enablement, it doesn't matter.
Buying group enablement, man. Absolutely. Is AI helping that? Are there areas where it can, or is it mostly making more of the noise that makes it even harder for the buying group to find anything?
Well, there's a little bit of both of those things. So what I think you're saying is if I'm the buying group, you come now to Google search, you get AI first, right? You go
Sure. Yeah.
to Gemini Canvas, or you go to Perplexity, or even ChatGPT. So I think that's only going to accelerate buyer enablement. It's not going to. They have access to information, right or wrong.
That's true.
That's a different discussion, but they have more access than ever to this that they're going to rely on, or they're going to talk to somebody, do an AI summary from a Zoom call, put that data in, prompt it to death, and come out with, this is the strategy you should probably follow. These are the steps. So this is a more what's around the corner, but AI will be probably doing some marketing and feeding to the AI agents and bots that are doing this work. So that's again a different discussion, but that's I think an inevitable part of where go-to-market goes and is going. But it'll also impact what we're talking about. It's only going to empower buyers more, true or false, good or bad. That's a debate, but that's already happening. That ship has sailed, or is sailing, excuse me.
I mean, that's a great point that, I was just thinking of like the things that people then use AI to create, but the fact that buying committee can just even ask, hey, I'm thinking of this kind of a project,
That's who now your engine is competing with.
Yeah.
Right? You're competing with the easy button answer. And so when that happens, that you're able to get answers or at least information, let me rephrase that quickly, that's another dynamic. So you have to, just like Casey, we had to do when search became prevalent. It became, how do we outgame search? And then we curse at Google or whoever the search engine was, because they changed the algorithms just when we spent 60
Totally.
days, right, trying to game the system. You have to do some of that, but we also have to think about that, because that's their AI is a good source of buyer and buying group enablement. So we're in some ways competing against it. So we have to think about that in our go-to-market and how we build this next playbook and toolkit.
Wow. Amazing. Amazing to think about. It's both our friend and our helper, but also maybe it is, but will AI even suggest you as, hey, who are the 3 companies I should look at to launch a podcast?
Do it right now, it will.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the more we are able to use that and bring that data in-house and build more private models as opposed to public models, the more intellectual capital and putting all that data and messaging work, you can feed that into your own models so that you can answer questions. And now think about having that's for your internal, so you're all prepared to develop the best communication, the best outreach, the best seller prep. Now think it the other way. Your website becomes more of a Q&A engine that has AI behind it that answer that buyer or buying group's questions better than anybody. And it wasn't how well your website was laid out that they clicked around on, but that they were able to come to your agent or your URL and find answers to questions. And it might be the early stage, or they might be more sophisticated, that they have been doing self-serve and you've made the consideration list, you may not even know it.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a whole new dynamic going on here to think about, which to me is very exciting. That's why I'm optimistic. But like anything, if you stay to, I've got this wired, no, you don't. No one's got it wired, and
Right.
the rules in the game in the field is shifting constantly. So the good news is, for anybody in the go-to-market world and business, that you're a valuable asset and resource, but you have to be able to continuously adapt. I know I struggle with it, but it's through conversations like this and through trying to play a little bit of chess and then go back down and get into the game of checkers so we can move around the board. But they help. They help kind of frame maybe how to think about things differently or to take a different approach.
And you currently helping groups out with this?
Yes. So what I do is, after a long time person in a lot of companies, a lot of organizations doing the work and leading sales and marketing and being a chief marketing officer. Really today I'm a chief market officer, and that's what myself and our little group does together, is we go in and basically barnacle on to go-to-market teams and work across product, sales, marketing, finance, to rethink those strategies and then be able to execute those within their business. So yeah, it's fun because we get to see, 3, 4, 5 at a time. We're not a big consulting shop. Consulting, in my mind's a dirty word.
Yeah.
Where you do a project and throw it over the wall, that's not what we're about. We're more of that group that comes in and really flows right into it and helps get the clutter out of the way and do some of that work so that the company can make a change to better align with their market, their buyers, their buying groups, and capitalize on that total available market.
Where can people reach out, connect with you, or get more information to work with you on these kind of projects?
Yeah, so LinkedIn, prevalent. Big believer in networking, big believer in making connections, big believer in learning and listening and trying to adapt your game. Casey, that's how we met
Yeah.
in that fateful summer of COVID, way back when. But now I follow and I listen to your guests. And what else? Is there something I'm missing that I need? The unknown unknowns, right? Is there something on my list that I don't have that I should be paying attention to that's going to be important in my work, my effort? And it's great to get down and execute, and I was that way for a long time and still am. But if you don't pick your head up and understand, you don't know what questions to ask, what's coming around the corner, because that's the worst, especially the more senior you get and the more responsibility, that's what they're expecting. Don't miss that swing when it comes around. And the hardest part is being surprised.
Yes. Well, you certainly have expanded my Johari window and the things that I don't know that now I know that I don't know them, or at least I know where I need to go and start working on them.
Oh, your words, man. I love them. Johari window, all these Casey phrases that bring life and a smile to my face.
Yes. Yes. Man, Scott, thank you so much for coming back on here and just really hashing out and bringing light to this issue. We are neglecting it at our own peril, and so I'm so grateful that you came on and just even reminded me to make sure I'm reaching out to that group. I'm showing up for them, however they need me to be, before they even ever enter that self-service model, or before they ever get in touch with me. So thank you for
Yes.
that.
You're welcome. Great always to be on and to talk shop and banter and share and compare notes. And thanks for all you're doing for the community.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And for those listening, if you learned something, and I freaking know you did because I literally have 2 pages of notes over here, front and back, then share this with someone else, like one person, 3, 9,000 is pretty neat too, but even one person, like who needs to hear this? You have a friend, even your own marketing. Are you neglecting that buying committee? There's 4,500 things going on out there. Are you aware of them? Are you even at bat? Then man, share this episode with someone else who needs to hear this message and maybe can get out of that hamster wheel of trying to get those MQL goals for this month only. Amazing. So Scott, thank you again, sir. You are the man.
Appreciate Casey. Always great.
All right, everyone. This has been a crazy cool, very informative, enlightening, Johari expanding episode of the Hardcore Marketing Show. We will see you all next time.